any presentation at Royal Roads, we also always acknowledge the lands that we're on. So Royal Roads University is located on the traditional lands of the Kosepsum and the Lekwungen ancestors and families who've been here for thousands of years. And I know many of us are working from home from many different locations right now. I am working from the traditional lands of the Cowichan peoples. So always just want to acknowledge, no matter where we're joining from, the lands that we get to work on and do the work that we do today. So today we're going to be talking about the Master of Arts in Interdisciplinary Studies, and also touching on as well the graduate certificate and the graduate diploma in interdisciplinary studies, and how those can all, you can use those credentials to further your education and really tailor it to an experience that fits for you. So my name is Christy Jones, and I'm an education advisor at the university today, but I am thrilled to be joined by the experts on this program. So we are joined by Barb Sheldon, who is a recent graduate from the MAIS program. We're going to be digging into a bit of an interview with her a little bit further into the webinar. And then we're also joined by Dr. Joe Axe, who's the program head for this program, and Willem van Doesburg, who is the Interdisciplinary Studies program advisor. So thrilled that you're all joining us today. And then I will also mention that we have Rhonda White, who's joining us helping with behind the scenes as well. She's one of the enrollment advisors at the university, and she'll be helping answer any questions that you may have in the chat box. So to dig into what we'll be discussing a little bit more today, so we'll start off with a brief overview of the Royal Roads University experience and what it's like to be a student with us. Then taking a look at the program at a glance. Then we'll hear from Barb. And then finally, we will go through the application process and requirements, and as well take you through a little tour of the website and what it looks like to kind of pick out your courses and things like that. So to start off, why explore Royal Roads University? The first one on here is we see life as a qualification. So this means that we take into account who you are holistically when you're applying to our programs, and not just looking at what your transcript says or perhaps what your past jobs have been or anything like that. We take into account the different experiences that you would be bringing into the program, whether that's volunteer experience, traveling you've done, different credentials that you've attained that are not necessarily in the traditional educational framework, but all of that we take a look at when you're applying to the program. The next one on here is Profs who know your name. So we don't exactly have the experience that larger institutions have, where you're sitting in a giant auditorium and you're just one pupil in the sea of other students. You actually do get to know your professors on a personal level. You get to know your classmates on a personal level, and anybody else that you're communicating with at the university, whether that's our student services, the program staff, financial aid, anything like that. It's always on a first names first basis. The next one on here is learning based on life. So we want to make sure that everything that you're learning is very relevant to what's going on in the world today and the challenges that we're facing. So we have what we call scholar practitioners who teach you at the university. So these are folks who are doing current work and or research in the field that they're teaching in. So that means that everything that you're learning is going to be really applicable to your career today. And as well, your classmates too are going to be applying the work that they're learning in the classroom to the different issues they may be experiencing in the workplace. And we encourage you to really do that to make the most out of your learnings throughout the courses. The next one on here is connections for life. So throughout your courses, even though many of our courses are in an online format, they are designed so you can make really great connections with your classmates and really bond through teamwork and things like that, that create these awesome relationships that can last far beyond when you graduate or finish that course, and that you can refer to for professional purposes or personal purposes. And that really helps you kind of get through your program through the more challenging times. And then the last one on here is we were built differently. So 25 years ago, over 25 years now, we were mandated or going forward with the mandate to provide a learning opportunity that would work for people who don't want to give up their careers and put things on hold to be able to take a master's degree or finish their undergraduate degree. So we were built with the notion that you can continue on with your career and take a blended approach. So you might be able to come on campus for a few weeks at a time, but also want to keep working and take online courses and things like that. So that was kind of a building foundation for us when the university began. And we're also in a Ashoka U Changemaker campus. So this is a designation that's been given to a select number of institutions, and we're very proud of it. It means the type of education that we provide is very interdisciplinary, it's very entrepreneurial, and it's very solutions oriented. So again, that's kind of speaking to how we do things differently and what kind of philosophies be infused throughout all of our programs and courses here. And finally, before I pass it off to Joe for more details on the program, just a little bit of a snapshot of our campus if you are unfamiliar with our place. So there will be opportunities when it's safe again for you to join us on campus, or there's opportunities to just have more of an online focus, which we'll be digging into. But of course, this will be your place to explore, whether it's for a visit or for convocation or anything like that. So the top left-hand corner is Hatley Castle. It was built in the early 1900s and is very much, I guess, a center point for our campus that's still used as a working building today. And we have events there when it's, of course, safe to do so. And it's used for film projects and things like that. In the top right-hand corner, we have the Japanese gardens, which is just one example of a few interconnected manicured gardens that we have on campus. We also have the Italian gardens. We have the rose gardens, croquet lawns. So there's a lot of beautiful places for you to explore kind of just adjacent to Hatley Castle. And on the bottom left-hand square there, you can see Esquimalt Lagoon. So we're also right on the water, which is a really beautiful, it's if you're interested in nature, this is a bird sanctuary. So this is a great spot for you to see wildlife. And again, if you're taking a study break or anything like that, just a great place for you to go and take a walk and kind of process your thoughts and things like that. And then the bottom right-hand corner there, this is just a bit of a ode to the fact that we have been doing online learning for over 25 years now. So no matter where you're joining from in the world, you can infuse the place that you're learning from into what you're learning and really take advantage of that flexibility throughout all of your courses. And with that, I will pass it over to Dr. Joe Axe to take us through the program itself.
Thank you very much, Christy. So yes, I'm the program head for the Master of Arts of Interdisciplinary Studies, and I'll be giving you a little bit of a guide through what you might expect if you choose to join us. There you go. Thanks. So we thought we'd start with this one because oftentimes students are coming in are trying to work through in their own minds what it is they want to do. And the reason for choosing MAIS that we've been told in several occasions is that they're looking at those complex world problems. It doesn't have to be a big problem, but it could be something like poverty in a specific area. And you're looking at different theoretical and methodological perspectives when you're looking at that project, that problem. So you're not just looking at it from one lens, you're looking at it through many different lenses, which is why interdisciplinary studies works so well in this kind of a situation. So next slide. And one of the things we do when talking to our students when they're prospects still coming into the program is asking them, what is it that you want? What do you want to be as a student? So some of the answers that we've had are this individualizing my academic schedule. So there are many different opportunities, and Willem will be taking you through some of those, but there are 8 different fields that you can study from and choose from, a variety of different programs, courses that you can take your courses from that will allow you to customize and tailor fit it to the needs that you have. The other thing that's important to folks is to build that schedule that lets them continue to work. Now, this happens for most of the students at Royal Rose, as Chrissy mentioned earlier on, coming in mid-career professionals, coming in from various different pre-existing job fields and needing that flexibility so that you can work online or come into the residency for 2 or 3 weeks and then go back into an online environment. the other thing is those diverse networks. So one of the great things about the MAIS program is that because you're dipping into and out of different courses in different fields of study, it allows you to connect with different networks. So you may be doing education or you may be doing communications, but you're speaking to students who are from those specific disciplines and going into and out of their networks. And so you can gather those contacts and connections as you work your way through your courses, which is a fantastic feature of MAIS. And the last one is that the research topic. So this doesn't happen or apply with everybody, but for students who are interested in doing a research project of some form or another, they're oftentimes coming in with some idea. It doesn't have to be the entire thing already well formed, but just a general idea of something that you're curious about. And so the MAIS program allows you to bring that curiosity into the classroom, really look into a problem that they're seeing in the world around them. Maybe an organizational problem, could be something that affects a volunteer association that they're working with, that type of thing. And bring that in, do a deep dive into the literature, maybe do some contacts with primary research, which is looking at interviews of focus groups and that sort of thing. So that's in a gist what students are looking for and how we can accommodate those things. So who are our MAIS students? I don't know. You can look down the list here. I'm not going to read them out, but I don't know if you can see yourself in any of those. If you can't see yourself in any of the ones that are listed in the first few bullets, if you look at the last one, I will probably guarantee that you are a lifelong learner. If you're looking to do a MAIS program or any of the programs at RU, lifelong learners is oftentimes what captures everybody at Royal Road. So I am actually an RU grad myself from a long time ago. I've been at RU for 20 years now. So many years ago, I graduated from a different program, and I'm addicted to learning. So I'm hoping that I'm talking to people who are similarly minded and that they're looking forward to exploring some of the opportunities that we have in the program. But that lifelong learners piece, I think, captures everybody. So this is a image that we've developed to capture the essence of the various opportunities that you have if you're taking the program. So you'll see that there are three options, but what I'm going to do is start at the lower left, and that's kind of a summary of some of the highlight features of what it is you're doing. So the MAIS degree is a total of 36 credits. Each of our courses are usually 3 credits. So if you do the math, you'll figure out how many courses you'll be taking. You have 27 credits for electives, which means that of the 36, 9 of those credits are associated with MAIS specific and required core courses that you'll be doing. Now, you'll be able to work with our program staff to design something that's unique to you and that meets the needs that you have and targets the areas that you're really interested in and weaves it together in a cohesive whole that is something that you can graduate with and use in the workplace afterwards. The opportunity to transfer credits into the program, there's up to 12 credits. We allow transferring from a master's level program. So if you've already done some graduate studies, we'll look at those credits and see if there's something that would apply to MAIS, and you have a potential opportunity there for transferring in some credits. So if we move up into the circle with multicolors in it, that then gives you a brief guideline of the 3 courses that are core to the program. So 500 is Theory of Interdisciplinary Studies. So you're looking at different paradigms, theoretical paradigms, and how you may use those as you're moving through the program. And the second one is 505, which is academic writing and critical thinking across disciplines. So that really sets you up well for being able to maybe convert your skills in writing from your practical lives, it could be business writing, journalistic writing, into that academic field. If it's been a while since you're studying or you haven't studied a lot in an academic institution, this really helps ground you in what you need to know in order to be able to write and think critically. And then the third one of those is social science research method. And that just has a higher level look, an introductory course that talks about qualitative, quantitative research methods that we often use. And it covers sort of research basics, different data collection methods, and that type of thing. So those are the 3 core courses, and we usually take those right at the very beginning. You have to take them at the start of the program, so that enables you to have the tools that you need as you're working through the rest of your program to come with an understanding from an interdisciplinary perspective as you're looking at the other courses you're taking. Now, in order to go on and continue through the program, you've got 3 different options for how you want to approach your experience. So the first one is online. So if you wanted to take the program entirely online, there's the option to do that. So you can do all 36 credits without having to come on campus. It's great here, as we've already had the guided tour, but you may love your home environment and you don't want to leave it. So if you want to do that, you can take the program entirely online and then choose up to 9 elective courses. So if you were doing an entirely online program, you would be doing the 3 core courses and then 9 elective courses, which gives you a very broad spread of topics that you can dig deeper into, look at the theoretical frameworks behind different disciplines. The second of those options, the one in the middle, includes a residency. So our students also, as soon as we get back and running with our residencies, which obviously due to COVID have been converted to online, we're going back into the residencies on campus. There will be the opportunity to come to campus for up to 2 weeks. So often our courses are structured, residency courses will be structured in a 10-week frame. So there'll be several weeks prior to coming to residency that you'll be ramping up, you'll come into residency for a couple of weeks, and then you'll have some post-residency experience as well. So the residencies often will take 2 or 3 courses at the same time. And you'll be in, it's very immersive. You'll be working a lot of hours in residency, but it's a fantastic, phenomenal experience from students who've taken that route. And the closing piece to that would be you'd be adding online courses to complete your program. So the third one, which for some reason my screen is not allowing me to see properly, is the social science research. So in this one, you've got the opportunity to do a thesis or a major research project. Those take up 12 credits of your program. And then there's also a research paper, which that's another alternative. You wouldn't take both. You'd do either a thesis, major research project, or you would do a research paper. The research paper is only 6 credits, and that will require doing secondary research, which is purely reading, looking at literature. It's not actually doing any primary research, which will be doing interviews or focus groups. So you're not going to be doing the primary research. You will be doing secondary in the research paper. In the thesis, you're usually doing both. You're looking at the literature and you're talking and having those interviews with other folks. And again, not sure what's going on with my screen, so I'm going to do something else to it. Okay, here we go. This is interesting. I can't quite see the bottom of the slide, so I'm not really sure. But anyway, you can bring your own research topic into it, which I think we've talked about before. And it's entirely plausible that you either come in with one or you think of something as you're moving through the program. So oftentimes students will really have a great experience in a course and realize that this is highlighting something that they're interested in and want to explore further. That's the kind of thing that will help you further develop. All right. So there are a couple of other things to consider if you don't want to do a full master's, or if you just want to sort of dip your toe in the water and try and find out what it's like to do graduate studies at Royal Roads. You could start by taking a graduate certificate. So the graduate certificate covers those first 3 core courses that we already talked about. And then if you chose, you might decide to do the first 3 core courses and go, you love it, which is oftentimes what ends up happening. People either go into the diploma or the MA. And oftentimes I've seen students start with a certificate and not end with a certificate. They keep on going. So it's quite a common experience to come in just trying to find out if that's the right thing for you and then love it and keep on going. So the same thing applies with the graduate diploma, although with that one, that's going to be a total of 18 credits. So you'll take 3 core courses again, and then 3 electives. And again, that one can ladder into the MA program. So one of the great opportunities with the MAIS program is that you can transfer those 12 credits into MAIS. Now, if you came in with 12 credits, that's one thing. But the other thing you can do is if you've taken a graduate certificate at Royal Roads before, you can also transfer that in on approval. And there are many, many certificates at Royal Roads University that you can look at doing. So you may want to take some of those as you're moving through the program. There are some fantastic courses. And as you can see on the screen, there are affiliations with various different professional organizations that you can benefit from having that dual experience.
Perfect.
That's it.
Yeah, that's the last one there.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Joe, for taking us through the program itself. And at this time, I'm going to pass it over to Willem to start off our conversation with Barb for today. So I'm going to stop sharing my slides, pass it over to you.
Thank you, Christy. Thank you. And this is a great moment to have, we had some theory from Joe about the program, and now we're going to move to some practice and going through the program. And we have today a Barb, and Barbara, she did a option 3, right, from the previous slide. So what she did is she started the program quite courses, then did some individual online standalone courses, and then ended everything with a major research project. Barb, you started with us in 2017. Could you please introduce yourself and speak a little bit more about your journey, but in particular, why did you decide to come to the MAIS program, an Interdisciplinary Studies program?
Sure. Thanks, Willem. Thanks, everybody. I'm coming to you from Treaty 7 territory in Calgary. And, you know, I, like many Royal Roads students, don't have a traditional academic background. So I did most of my education degree when I was very young. I started university when I was 17 years old, in fact. And I couldn't even go to the pubs to study. So I actually ended up dropping out of university about 3/4 of the way through my education degree. From there, I entered the restaurant industry. I have a lifelong love of food. And so, you know, did that typical, learned how to be a restaurant professional, and then became a chef, and then became a nutritionist because I started to understand how food affects the body. And from there, over the last 17 years of having a nutrition and holistic food practice, I started to see connections in underserved communities between food and nourishment, and obviously wellness, right, and well-being. So if we taught youth, particularly marginalized youth, to cook, anecdotally, I was seeing their health improve. I have a child in the LGBT community, and when he came out and we started, when he was about 15, and we started cooking together and inviting his friends in to cook, this is when I really saw improvement. And I thought, what could I do? Where could I go where I could actually do research on this and prove so that nonprofits and other organizations could use my information to get funding and prove that this type of intervention, culinary and nutrition together, actually improved health outcomes in LGBTQ2S+ people. So I looked everywhere, and Royal Roads was the option, and the MAIS program was the option, because, you know, I came to the university and said, this is what I want to do. And they said, this is the program that could work for you because it's so flexible. So that was how I found Royal Roads. And it absolutely did exactly what it reached my goals, and was exactly the experience that I needed. And I did get really interesting research findings out of it. In fact, just share this because I think it's kind of a win. Yesterday, I just presented my findings to the Food Literacy Center in Sacramento, California. They're a huge center that teaches both culinary and nutrition courses to underserved children in America. And so I was able to share with them what I learned, and they're now taking that information, and they'll be able to go off and use some of that research to apply for funding and things like that. So that's a pretty big win for me, and hopefully for the kids too. So that's my long story short.
Yeah, thank you, Barb. So connection of food, right, and well-being. So almost using food as a methodology to improve lives, literacy. So you mentioned a few strengths of the program, right? The flexibility of choosing your own pathway. You took, for example, a communication course, right? You took an emotional intelligence course.
Yes.
You took the LGBTQ plus global
Yes.
issue course, right? So you kind of crafted your coursework to move towards that project. So what other aspects of the program do you believe really helped you to meet your goals, besides then choosing your own pathway and the flexibility?
Sure. Well, first of all, I think, Willem, you just gave a really good example of the support was a huge aspect of the program. The support that I received from you, the fact that you can even remember the courses that I took is pretty phenomenal. But that as I learned and took courses in communications, I did a global human resources course, and then I moved into a bunch of leadership courses. And it was kind of, you know, this constant communication I felt between me and you, Willem, and also other support staff saying, oh, this actually supports what I want to do when I get to my major project better. Would you mind if I took this course instead? And so my journey was not linear by any means. And then once I fell into the leadership component of it, I really felt like I was where I needed to be. And then I was able to go, okay, I'm going to take 2 or 3 of those. So by the time I got to my major project, I felt very supported with the coursework and the deep learning and the research that I did through the coursework. And may I also just say those first 3 courses, the actual Indus courses, were incredibly helpful. And when we do them at the start of the degree, and when I was dropping into other faculty's courses like communications and leadership, they hadn't done those courses yet. And actually doing it at the start I felt like I was miles ahead. It made me so prepared, Dr. Axe, for the learning that was to come. So I appreciate that those courses are first as well.
Thank you. Yeah. So if we go a little deeper into your experience in the program, right? So you came with us in 2017, you had those first 2 program required courses, and then we went back and forth, you chose your courses. So as a Mace student, you don't have a cohort, right? As you know, you don't have a set path and you go through the same experience with other students. So how was it for you to move in between those communities, right? So communication students, now back to leadership students, back to MBA students, right? With your emotional intelligence course. So how was it for you to move between those disciplines and kind of be on your own in a way? Could you speak a little bit more to that?
Yeah, at first I felt a bit like when I did that the first few times, new kid in the class, I felt like a bit of an interloper, but I have to say the community in each of the groups was incredibly supportive and welcoming. So in some programs, I was the only Mace student in the program. So sometimes that took a little bit of catching up. I find you have to read a little more. And you have to work maybe a little harder than the rest of the students. Like I'll just be honest, and to stay just, slightly ahead or at least at the same level, because a lot of the times, especially as I got closer to the end of the program and I wasn't taking sort of, your beginner level courses anymore, the students within a certain degree program are speaking a language that I would then have to go in and learn. So you do have to be able to have that flexibility to be a lifelong learner and to be open to that learning. It often required, me communicating with the professors who were phenomenal and going, hi, Mace student here. I need a little more context for this course. And they were always like, yes, of course, and really supportive and giving me extra time, extra resources. And I never felt like I had a deficit by any means, but you do have to work hard. For sure. I mean, you have to work hard anyway. It's a graduate degree.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So working hard and having a full life, like that you mentioned, you have grown kids, you have your work, you have your website, you have your teaching engagements yourself. How did you organize your time while doing a graduate program?
Yeah, it was really great role modeling for my kids who at the time were in late teens and early 20s and they entering school themselves. It was really cool for them to see that school has to be first, especially when there's a paper due, there's research due. Being an entrepreneur was a bonus because I could be flexible. So I could study during the day, write during the day, and do a little bit of my my actual money-making work at night. But a lot of my classmates didn't have that opportunity. Some of them were in the police service, the military, really structured sort of top-down leadership style jobs. And they had to do all of their stuff at night. So it definitely requires sacrifice. There was times where, nobody saw me for a while, and that's okay. It's the good work, right? So, but like I said, it's hard work. So you definitely have to figure out a way to balance. And I'll point out, there was a point I had something happen in my family where I actually had to take a short break from my studies, and Royal Roads was incredibly helpful and supportive in allowing me to take a short break and then come back to the programming, which I was very grateful.
Yeah. So when things are not, and this is a difficult topic, of course, but at everybody's student life, things sometimes don't go so well, right? So did you had such a moment, and how did you get over it? Did you, and I'm particularly thinking about our resources, right? Because Royal Roads is, I think, very good with the resource. We have accessibility service, we have our library, right? We have a funding department. So did you use any of those services, and how did you go about doing that, and how was it helpful to you?
Yeah, the time that I went through was incredibly stressful. That was actually pre-COVID, so I did use accessibility services, and I was able to talk to counselors there. I was able to get the study support and the help that I needed. They were really great about saying, you know what, instead of trying to muddle through this and not get the experience, why don't you take a break? And it was very relieving for me. And then when I came back, I was ready and I was recharged, and those services were there for me for sure. Same with the library, all kinds of really interesting resources to help me and my wellness personally. And, as somebody who is a wellness educator myself, I really appreciated that those opportunities were there. Burnout is not something to be glorified, and learning is hard. And working is hard, and being a mom is hard, and all these things together are certainly, not the easiest things. So having that support, I felt incredibly supported. My classmates too, incredibly supportive. Just, yeah, very positive.
Yeah.
Thank you, Carol.
Now, I have three more questions actually, and one of them you partially answered. It's about the way that you decided on your program, and you came in with a background in culinary, within culinary professional, right? As in a way, not social science related. Then you moved towards social science and brought in a community aspect, right? So I can recall honestly, Barb, from the beginning, did you consider a major research project from the start, or have you moved in between those two or three options? Like coming to campus wasn't an option because of COVID, so either online or a research. Did that develop itself? Could you say a little bit more about that?
I always wanted to do a hands-on project from the beginning, because originally my intention for my major project was to actually gather together a group of transgender and gender nonconforming youth, cook with them, and then and observe and figure out about program design and which way we could serve their community the best. So the project was already there from the start. In fact, that's what I wanted to do before I even understood what a MAIS degree was. And then COVID happened, and I actually had to change my project 3 different times. Eventually, I wasn't able to cook with a community, so I was able to change it again and do more secondary research. But what I found was just as rewarding and just as interesting as doing the one-on-one, sort of hands-on stuff with the kids. So it all worked out in the end. But and again, the flexibility of the program allowed me to do that, which was great.
Yeah. Now, I have another question here before I ask you some wider questions about advice for going further in the program, right? But I'm very intrigued about your project for 2 reasons. One, it has to do with LGBTQ plus communities, right? And food. So it's an interdisciplinary approach. And 2, you were supervised by our founding dean, Dr. Matthew Hines, who has a lot of affiliation in that field, right? Now, how did working with a professional like that, doing your project, help you in your career? And could you say a little bit more about how this maybe even leaped, I forget the term now, into your future? And maybe say a little bit more about your project if you wish.
Sure. Yeah, so just a very brief overview. Essentially, my project studied the effects of food literacy, so food and culinary education, on the well-being and health outcomes of transgender and gender nonconforming youth. At the end of the day, the program design and evaluation was a really important part of that. And what we found out, what we discovered was, that follow-up is key when designing programs, especially for kids and for underserved kids. We recognize the barriers, and I say we because I feel like I didn't do it by myself. We recognize the barriers, particularly the minority stressors that the community faces, even if you design the best program possible. And that things like peer mentoring and support were incredibly important for really effective program design. So Dr. Hines, being in that community, was really able to say to me, okay, your project is great like this, but if you're going to go present this to a nonprofit or a corporation or somebody that can help either you get funding or you're helping them get funding for a larger project, here is how you would have to change it to make it more professional for that environment. So he was super helpful that way. And then now that I'm done, I'm actually reigniting my business entirely and coming at it from a leadership angle. And, you know, COVID, so I'm an instructor at a college as well, and I got laid off during COVID. So I have to use my entrepreneurial skills, and having the background now and the degree has allowed me to really feel like the expert and be able to go to organizations and say, this is my research, these are my findings, this is how I can help you. And I know that I can, because it's grounded in the research and it's grounded in the work that I did. Whereas before I was like, I know this, but I don't know it. I know it anecdotally, you know? And plus all the different discoveries that I didn't know that were made that are incredibly useful, like what I shared with the Food Literacy Center yesterday. They didn't have a peer mentorship program. Now they will, because of this research. They didn't know that parental follow-up was really important for teaching underserved youth. Now they know that. So that has allowed me to get hired to lecture. I got paid for that. So that's really great, you know, so I can see how I've got a bigger and clearer vision for my business now. And I certainly have more confidence. And I also have the literacy for leadership and for understanding how to talk in a business world. Whereas before I didn't have that. So it completely changed how I'm doing business, completely. Yeah. And I'm so excited to reignite my business in this new way for this new kind of post-COVID era, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. That's well said. The final question we always ask, and I think it's a valuable one. Now, looking back on your journey, right? It took you about 2.5 years, I mean, almost 3 years, 2.7 years or so. What kind of experience, what kind of advice can you offer? Like if you say 3 points of advice for new students or prospects or applicants who consider the program, what would you suggest to them, those 3? Either around your experience in the program or, you know, looking forward for your own goals after the program. What would you suggest?
Well, as a wellness professional, the first thing I would say is respect your own boundaries around the amount of stress that you can handle. This does not have to be the most stressful thing in the world, but there's a lot of work here. So I think it's really important to ask yourself, are you ready to be a student? Because it requires sacrifice, for sure. And without sacrificing your health and your wellness, because we want leaders to come out of these programs, not people that are completely burned out and crumbling, right? So that would be the first thing. I would say the second thing is to pay attention. If you do take the program, really pay attention to those first 3 courses. I didn't even know what interdisciplinary studies were when I first started. And it was really to really understand the social science portion of this really helped me then take that learning about interdisciplinarity. Is that right? Interdisciplinary.
Yeah, that's we all struggle with the word though. That's consistent here.
To take it forward and actually apply it to the courses moving forward, and to life in general, because, you know, now being out there in the real world, why not leverage all kinds of different disciplines to see how we can use sort of like, well, for me, with social justice being my primary focus, you know, who can I ask? Who can I call on? And then the third thing is, you do have, even if you're an introvert, it's really important if you're a Mace student to be extroverted enough to make connections with your classmates. because you go to different faculties, right? Different departments. And I can tell you that I have made 4 incredibly important relationships that I never had before here, that I don't think I could live without these people now that I met in the different departments. These are some of the deepest, most profound relationships that I've ever made. And if I wasn't open to that, if I sat sort of at the back of the class online and I didn't speak out and I didn't participate in, you know, team and group activities, I know that those relationships wouldn't be as deep as they are. And the interesting part about any of the programming that we have here at Royal Roads is people are typically our age, right? That's broad for all of us, but you know, 40s and 50s, and really open and willing to make deep connections. That's why we're all here. That's what the on-campus portion is for, is making those really deep personal connections. I'll never lose my connections with those people. I'm so grateful for them. So.
Thank you, Barb. The interdisciplinary component sparked one more question. One of the things when I speak with applicants and students, right, is how do you market yourself as an interdisciplinary MA student, right? With an MA. So if you would go forward, right, how would you present yourself with an interdisciplinary degree? Interdisciplinarity in general is more accepted as a field of study, right? Wicked problems, as they say. We can solve them by looking into one area only, especially when you talk about food and literacy and community, right? This is intertwined. So how do you present yourself with regards to your degree, if necessary at all, right?
That's a really interesting question, because I did only just graduate 2 weeks ago. And I'm now allowed to use the letters after my name. And I've even been sort of playing around with MA versus MAIS, because there is an explanation that goes along with MACE. And I kind of like that. I like that people ask, what is that? And then I can explain to them that this has allowed me to be an expert in the field where I believe that I can make the most impact using a variety of different disciplines. That's kind of how I say it. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, that answers it. Yeah, everybody has their own take. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, not to move over it. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's special.
Yeah, you have room to explain what your focus was around, which immediately leads to food literacy, community building, right? Then for you, yeah. Okay, thank you so much, Barb. That was super helpful for me, even understanding your view. Back to Christy.
Thank you so much, Barb. I'm just taking a look at the chat box to see if anybody's popped any questions in there. And this one, Barb, if you have insights on this, it'd be great, but opening this up as well to Willem and Joe. So is the MAIS program more geared towards working professionals? I'm looking to break into the workforce again, rather than elevating my existing career. Wondering if it'd be applicable to that.
I could start with answering that. Joe, you jump in whenever you feel. So a trend. So there's multiple ways to start an MA, right? One of them could continuing with getting better at what you were at, where you were at, or breaking into a new field. We have, for example, the residency courses, what we call them. They are more foundational. So an MA would definitely work. You look at the overarching topic. Let's say it's social justice. We have, for example, access to our justice courses from the School of Humanitarian Studies. And if you then take, for example, the first 3 courses as a foundation, then you can build in or build further from there. So I would say that definitely works. Yeah, we just have to design your schedule in a way that allows you to introduce yourself into a new field. I hope that answers the question. Joe, if you have anything to add, please let me know. Let us know.
Joe, I think you're just muted there.
I am, and I clicked it and then I double clicked it. Sorry about that. I've only been teaching online for 20 years. I forget about the mic. So yeah, I think it's I think it's one of those things where in some ways it became a default that it was for working professionals. So we use that language a lot, but oftentimes people are using it to move from one place to another. They may be taking a gap, as I think you're mentioning, in their career. And so we see a lot of people from a whole bunch of different places, but I think we tend to use working professionals as a default when we're talking about it. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's only for working professionals. I think it's definitely something that can move you into different directions if that's what you're looking to do. But again, it would be working with Willem to try and work the schedule so that it meets the needs that you have, if that makes sense. Bob, did you want to talk about that a little bit? Because you have had a change and a shift in what you've been doing quite a bit, yeah?
Yeah, for sure. You know, there's, first of all, there's just the practical hour requirement. We have to do this work, and it does have to be first when we're in it, for sure. So that's just the bottom line there. But you know, working with Willem and everybody and balancing time is an absolute part of being a MAIS student. That's just part of it. Being organized. Okay, first of all, I'm a chef, so I'm super type A, you know, that's just, I know that about myself, it's fine. But, you know, being really organized is incredibly important to make sure that you're balancing your family, balancing your work, and balancing the program. And that organization can come from a lot of different places. The school's really good at offering resources that way for time management as well. So as far as being a professional goes, that's certainly part of it. Does that answer the question? Was there anything else that you would want to know?
Oh, I think that answers it. Yeah. There's one more thing I want to say about it, and I will move on. Most of our students take one course at a time. That's a commit for up to 20 hours a week, so between 15 and 20. If you've been to graduate school recently, you'll read faster, you're more organized, so you do it a little quicker. But I mean, I think the strength of the MAIS program is if you want to break into a new field, is what often entrepreneurs do. They don't stop their normal job. They continue to build up the startup on the side. So see the MAIS program as your startup, continue with your current position if you can, and then merge into the MA and continue to work with the MA and try to break into a new field like that. This is the least dangerous way, the less risk. You can take one course at a time. If you want to do it overnight, yeah, we also are eligible for kind of student loan funding. We have to speed up the schedule a lot, so you'll become a full-time student. So that's a little bit more information there, if that's helpful. Christy?
Yeah, and if I could, I actually did that closer to the end of my program. I was considered only a part-time student for a while, and then I was able to be flexible and speed it up at the end because I did need a loan because of COVID. You know, it just happens. So again, you guys were incredibly flexible that way and helping me. And a lot of professional organizations will, you know, pay for some of the tuition for this program too. So if you are a professional, like I know a lot of my friends in different industries, their tuition was paid for. And so their organization was really supportive to them, you know, knowing that they were students going to school, which I think could be helpful as well.
Thank you all for providing that insight. That was great. At this time, I think Willem is going to dive in a little bit more into the program guide and how that will look to pick your own courses and things like that. But Barb, again, super inspired to hear your journey through the program. And I know that there's people in the chat box who were saying the same too. So really appreciate you sharing everything that you did today. And you're welcome to stick around for the rest of it. Or if you do need to head out now, we totally understand that too. But yeah, really appreciate you coming today.
Well, thank you all so much. I would love to answer any more questions people have. So please feel free to share my contact information with everyone. I did get a couple direct messages. So for sure, reach out to me. Happy to answer any questions anytime. And good luck to everybody. Do it. You can do it. I know you can.
Amazing. Thank you, Barb. And Willem, I'll also say too, we had a follow-up question from Ian that might be relevant as you're going through these courses. He said, I gather there's no in-person options for the program other than the residency. So perhaps you can kind of touch on that as you're going through navigating our program guide.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I shared my screen and I hope you can see it, Christy, and everyone else can see it.
Yep, looks great.
Yeah, so this is the MAIS program guide, commons.royalroads.ca/MAIS program guide. I think Rhonda, our admission advisor, she put the link in the chat earlier. And this is kind of your portal. So even if you have applied or you haven't applied, this gives you a glimpse of, and I'm using the word curated, but yeah, we have kind of curated from over eight disciplines, from courses from the Royal Roads University, from all schools, right? We have environment, we have humanitarian studies, etc. So they're all predetermined. So we, as a MAIS student, you will be allowed, if there could be conditions, to enroll into those courses. So your start really here is on the left-hand side. And I first want to point out there's a few headers here before and during applying. And during the program, you'll, for example, find answers to what will my schedule look like. Right in here, you have a basic overview of the start. What's the difference between a major research project and a thesis, for example. So this is great information. But let's say you agree that the Interdisciplinary Studies program is a great way to go. And it is actually, but then you'll have a look here on the left-hand side. So for example, under online courses, those are courses only offered online. Now, and if we continue on Barb's schedule that I recall, for example, she took some leadership courses. There's a leadership here, for example, the Lead 516. So by going through those courses, looking at the calendar descriptions, and I'm here to help you if you need more information, more deeper information about them, right? If you have maybe one course and another, you want to see there's overlap, then that's where I come in and I can help you with that. But she took, for example, this theory course around the concepts and theories of leadership, which is a course that is actually placed in the leadership program. Then she took, for example, a course around emotional intelligence, which is a elective in the MBA program. See, so you could, for example, go and have a look at environment here and say, I want to have a course, a grand theory course on system perspectives, because I'm working within bureaucratic systems, within local governments or municipalities, and I like to understand how systems work together. You move one piece, another piece will move as well. So there's lots of options here, right? Even up to science, biosphere and sustainability, outdoor experiential education is a course from our own college here. So even tourism, all these disciplines or schools that have the courses within them are represented. So this is if you want to do option one, online courses only. Now, there are also foundational residency courses, and I refer to that to the question around, can I break into a new area? Then I would strongly recommend to take a foundational residency. Like, for example, from the Humanitarian Studies, they have a residency around social justice. So justice in this case with Royal Roads isn't the legal sense of justice or criminal justice at the MA level, it's about social justice. So there you have the residency. It's 2 courses at the same time. They're kind of sandwiched with an on-campus component. So what Ian asked is correct. We have 4 weeks in this case online to build up your knowledge around the topics, to get to know your cohort online here. So you're basically joining a justice studies cohort here for those 3 courses. There's another course prior to here, which is the online course, the Just 502. But then 4 weeks online, 2 weeks on campus, and then 4 weeks online again. So that gives you a chance to meet a cohort and kind of build that cohort feeding into your MAIS program. So let's say you don't want that, you want just an online program, but you suddenly get an urge to, I want to have a better understanding of the campus as well, and being here as an experiential learning experience, right? You could consider, for example, an advanced residency course. Those are courses that are in the 2nd year of other MA programs. And for example, you have a great course here. It's around conflict analysis and management, professional communication course. And you can slot that into your schedule. So what we do is when you apply or you're interested in developing a schedule, we create a list, a wish list of what you want to take. And then we go over that list. And then we, as the staff, together with the program associates, and I will help you design that list, we then draft you a schedule based on the courses you want. Because we have access to the dates, we know which one is offered, we know which one should be taken earlier and later, etc., etc. Now, to come back to the question about on campus, so the advanced residency courses will give you 1 or 2 weeks on campus, or the foundational residency courses. In unique cases, we could be able to design a fully on-campus program, or fully, I can't say fully because we have our own online courses, of course, that are program required, but we could work around something that could make it happen that you're on campus more often than what we have here. But that is 2.0 individualized, highly custom programming. So that we need to discuss that on a one-on-one basis and really see if we can have access to those courses. But that could be possible because we have on-campus programs, tourism, intercultural communication. I think the MBA program has a few on-campus courses now as well. We might have access to. So I'll leave it with that. So have a look at this website, right? The program guide, and that'll give you a really good handle of what you can do with us. Christy, did I forget anything? Is there any questions that I can answer, or would you like to close our session?
I think that about covers it. No more questions that I see in the chat box. So just looking at the time, we have about 4 minutes left. So I'm going to quickly go through the application process and share my screen again. There we go. All right. So a little bit more about how to apply. So we have standard admissions and flexible admissions. I'll go through the standard admissions first. So that would look like a 4-year or comparable undergraduate degree in a related field from a recognized post-secondary institution with a minimum GPA of a B+, and then normally 3 years of experience with that. If you aren't sure if you quite fit into that list there on the standard admissions, we also have flexible admissions. So this would look like, while an undergraduate degree in a relevant field is recommended, you may be assessed for admissions based on your skills, knowledge, and background developed outside of the traditional learning structures. This is kind of what I was mentioning closer to the start of the webinar today about like looking at who you are holistically, and we assess that on a case-by-case basis after looking through your background. So if you aren't sure about your background or where you fit in, you're welcome to start a conversation with our enrollment team, and they can kind of help you navigate that part of it. A little bit more about how to apply. So to start off the process, there is a fee of $126.28 for the application, which is a very specific number, I know. And then some supporting documents that go with your application. So the first one there is official transcripts. So those will need to be sent directly from whichever previous institutions you've attended, and they need to arrive to us sealed. And right now with COVID and things like that, some institutions are doing emailed official transcripts, and we are accepting those as well. So I wouldn't worry too much about that side of things if that's the case. The next one on here is a detailed resume. So this can be as detailed as you need it to be to communicate all of your experience. It can be quite a bit longer than what you'd use for a typical like job application resume, for example. So include things like obviously your educational experience and your professional background, but can include things like volunteer, specific courses you've taken, projects you've been a part of, or conferences. This is a great place to include all of those details. And then to go with that is the personal statement. So this is a great document to really map out some more of why you want to take the program and how it will benefit your career and your goals, and how you want to structure the program to meet those goals. Willem, do you want to jump in on this one?
Yeah, I just want to point out the personal statement. But the MAIS program, we have quite a specific personal statement question. There's 5. So Rhonda just put the link down there. There's 5 questions that are asked, and it's very helpful to our adjudicators that you follow those 5 questions specifically. So well, that will give the information we like to hear. So you want to add that to the application slide here, Christy. The other thing, what I like to add with regards to the flexible admissions, is that you have to think of the way that you design your application, that our adjudicators will be looking at it with the idea in mind that if what you present is in par with a bachelor degree. So those 2 ideas I just quickly wanted to add there. Thank you, Christine.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Willem. The last thing on here is 2 letters of reference. So it is ideal if one of those can be from a professional background and one from an educational background, but there's a little bit of wiggle room on that, say if it's been a number of years since you've been in school or things like that. But with those, it's a best practice as well if those references can arrive directly from who is referring you, from their professional email address, so we can confirm who they are and that they're not a cousin or your mom, so we can confirm the authenticity of how they can speak to your past experience and things like that. Some key dates that you may want to note down. So the next intake date for the MAIS program is September 7th, 2021. The application deadline is coming up very soon for that, August 7th. So if you are thinking about starting this program soon, it's best to start looking at those documents and getting those together. If you are looking a little bit further down the road, we have another intake coming up in January, and the application deadline for that is in October. But on our website as well, you can see dates even further down the road if you do want to plan a little bit further out. But we do what we call rolling admissions here at Royal Roads. So when you get your application in, that means that we can tell you as soon as possible whether you're in the program or not, and we don't wait until the exact application deadline date to inform everybody if they're in the program or not. So the sooner that you apply, the sooner we can tell you whether you're in the program, and then the sooner you can start planning anything that you need to shift around your schedule, your life to accommodate starting out on this journey. So financial aid is another crucial part of planning your educational journey, and we do have an amazing financial aid team that can help you navigate any of our awards and bursaries and things like that. And we do have a smaller student body at Royal Roads than some of the larger institutions, and that means that you can actually have a pretty good chance at getting some of these funding opportunities if you put yourself out there for that. And I know when I was previously a student at Royal Roads, I went to this team for help, and they were super amazing, and they helped me navigate the student loan process and identifying any awards and things like that that might be eligible for me. And I actually did get some of those opportunities, which was great. So you never know, if you just put yourself out there, what sort of ways you can get help in facilitating this journey back to school for you. And we've mentioned our amazing enrollment team a few times throughout the presentation. Rhonda is a wonderful example of this team. She's been providing lots of helpful links that you can click on and find out more information, but you're welcome to reach out to our team afterwards as well if you want to delve into what this program could look like for you some more. So if you'd be applying as a Canadian student, you'll want to contact the top email address there, or if you'd be applying as an international student, that is the bottom email address there for you to contact. And with that, we are coming to the end of our presentation today, but Joe and Willem, is there any final words you'd want to share before we close out the session?
Go ahead, Wim.
Yeah, I don't think so. I would say if you're in doubt, don't feel that you should not reach out to us, because we're a university, of course, we are in a business, right? But we're not looking to sell you the program. We are here to help you. And I am here to help you to design the best program for you. And if that's with us, that's great. If that's elsewhere, that's great with me too. So don't feel that you should hold back on connecting with us. I think that's the one thing I wanted to say.
Yeah, that's great. I just really want to say thanks to everybody for joining us today. It was really a great opportunity for us, and wish you all the best. I hope we see your application.
Perfect. Thank you both so much for providing so much great information today, and to Barb as well, and to all of you for joining us. So with that, we hope to have you get in touch with us, but either way, we hope you have a wonderful summer and wonderful rest of your day. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Christy, for organizing this.